Personality is another term that tends to be pretty commonly used, but not always in the same way we think about it in psychology. Given that, it's helpful to think about what's consistent with the more general common sense understanding and what's different, including both how we're using terms and how the related characteristics of the person influence performance and fit. When we think about personality in psychology, we're referring to a characteristic of an individual that influences thinking, feeling, and behavior, technically referred to as cognition, emotion, and behavior. Personality influences how we respond to different situations, so we tend to have habitual responses. Situational norms lead to some variations, but personality tends to predict behavior in a variety of circumstances. Overall, personality is also relatively stable over time, though there are changes in the level or degree of some aspects of personality. One thing that might be different in psychology compared to more casual use is that psychology describes personality in terms of a set of traits. In other words, it's relatively unusual for a psychologist to make a blanket statement about personality, or to do so without going on to identify specific personality characteristics. Personality psychology includes a number of intense debates. In addition to the one related to the situation and to change, there's some debate about how many distinct personality characteristics we can measure. The consensus tends to be that the big five are accurate and sufficient for the majority of circumstances when we need to define personality. Hence the fact you might know about the big five and might even have already learned the acronym OCEAN to remember them. Note, though, that IO sometimes changes it up a bit to use emotional stability instead of neuroticism. That reflects the idea that we talk about the degree to which an individual has each of these traits, not whether or not they have them. Emotional stability would be a high level of the characteristic, and neuroticism would be a low level. As you review the information in the resources, make sure to think about whether each of the factors is described in the way you would think of from the labels, and what it would mean to be high on a particular trait versus low. I have a feeling it's not too big of a surprise that an individual's personality traits can influence their performance, and that it depends somewhat on the job they're doing. The way the specific traits relate to performance and fit is probably also pretty logical. The characteristics associated with conscientiousness and emotional stability are logically related to motivation, and given that, it makes sense that research indicates they're related to performance across types of jobs. The Yes, Personality Matters article notes that they also make a unique contribution to motivation compared to general mental ability. The article also emphasizes two important points about the relationship between personality and performance. First, personality influences performance in a way that's unique and separate from other influences. That's what the authors of the article are talking about when they refer to incremental validity. Secondly, emphasizing fit based on personality can also help us increase fairness while adding to the ability to predict performance. Assessment of some individual difference characteristics are biased against different demographic groups, but personality tests don't tend to have that bias. Okay, so we've established conscientiousness and emotional stability contribute to performance across different types of jobs. What about the other traits? They tend to relate to specific parts of performance, and so are more job specific. The research findings mentioned in the Yes, Personality Matters article also highlight the importance of thinking about the combination of traits an individual possesses, not just single traits. That goes along with what the authors mention about jobs that require getting along and jobs that require getting ahead. The findings from that article and in the book are definitely not comprehensive. There's a lot of research about personality and person-organization or person-job fit. For example, in looking at recent research related to person-job fit, I found research about how personality influences performance in various Army jobs, and research about how fit influences professional soccer players in Germany. It probably isn't a surprise that different Army jobs were influenced by different traits, but it might be surprising that soccer players' personality was related to performance. Those articles aren't available through our library, but the notes for this slide include the references if you'd like to read the abstracts or request the articles. Many aspects of the psychological concept of personality overlap with common sense. The way we talk about it in psychology, though, helps us be more specific about what we know. That specificity starts with considering the parts of personality, the traits. Considering individual traits and the way they interact with one another allows for research about what contributes to performance and what contributes to performance in a specific job, which relates to person-job fit.